Hey guys. This is part 9 of What If Naruto is hiding her identity and secretly a girl. Hit like and subscribe if you like this one, and also please check the author in the description. Let's start.
We are pain, that's all. We are God.
Chapter 51 Coward. Varrick's POV. There were benefits to being a bartender at one of the most popular bars in the village. Granted, said bar was gone, but still, Varrick was able to get information off his regular customers. He was able to find out that Naruto was fine, and staying at the Nara compound, helping to plan the relocation of the citizens of the village. He was also able to find out that many ninjas were questioning Naruto's gender. Personally, he had no idea how they hadn't worked it out already. She had always looked like a girl to him. He didn't say that though. Instead, he set the seeds of doubt about what they thought they saw. Naruto could tell them the truth when she was ready. Until then, the village could keep guessing. When he heard from a party of ninjas that had gone to check on the civilians, he knew he had to do something. One of his favorite patrons had told him how his boss wanted Naruto to lead the children out of the tunnels. And he knew that Naruto would do it. She could easily say no, but Varrick knew she wouldn't. So here he was, slowly drinking from one of the few surviving alcohol bottles from the bar. He had another sitting beside him, patiently waiting for the one who would need it. Behind him loomed the entrance to the evacuation tunnel. The slabs of broken concrete, brick, and wood littered around the entrance looked like the victims of the tunnel's darkness. Even after all this time, the sight of the tunnel sent shivers down his spine. Swallowing thickly, Varrick took a gulp of his drink, wishing Naruto would hurry up. He spotted a blonde figure walking towards him. Her steps were labored, her head down. Varrick silently waited until Naruto drew near. When she finally stopped and looked up, Varrick simply held up the unopened bottle of sake. Naruto hesitated for only a moment before taking the bottle and sitting down on what used to be a wall. After an awkward silence, Naruto sighed. What are you doing here? I heard what Dai asked you to do, so I came to help. How did you know I'd be using this tunnel? The simple tone they both used clearly hid what was going on within their minds. I may have asked some direct questions to some ninjas working close to the Naras. Taking a deep breath, Varrick forced himself to look at the woman beside him. Doing so made him notice she was hiding her gender again. He flinched. Naruto. I'm an ass. Naruto merely took a sip of her drink. And? Varrick gave a laugh. I appreciate that. I'm an ass and I'm a coward. I'm fucking pathetic. And I'm sorry. He watched Naruto open and close her mouth. I don't want forgiveness. I haven't done anything to earn it. Hell, you should want to kill me. And no one would blame you. I knew about those boys who were trying to hurt you all those years ago, but I had hoped that someone else would stop them so that I didn't have to. That's why I never even thought about becoming a ninja. I preferred to let others do the dangerous things. I'm too much of a coward. Shikamaru told Iruka-sensei and got beaten up for it, Naruto commented plainly. And that just shows he's a better man than me, Varrick admitted, biting down his bitterness. Yep. I deserve that. Whilst I'm admitting to things, I should say that Nara pisses me off. The moment I saw you with him, I knew I had no chance. He treats you the way you deserve. Naruto shook her head with annoyance before speaking in a cold voice. You haven't apologized for the worst thing you've done. I was leaving it for last. I want to say that I believed my dad when he just wanted to talk, but honestly, I just wanted my adopted parents to like me, and I was too scared to think about who got hurt. I chose to be oblivious, and you paid for it. Like I said, I'm a coward and I am sorry. After you kicked me out of the Nara estate, I realized you've grown up and worked to put your pain behind you. I clearly have not. I thought that since I knew what you've gone through, I would be the one you turned to, that I deserved you. I realized I only saw you for what you've suffered instead of what you've done to overcome it all. I need to grow up. I need to stop being a coward. Hell, I didn't evacuate with the rest cause I was too scared to go in the tunnel without you. I sat up on the Hokage heads and watched everyone else fight. I watched you fight. The thing I need to do the most is earn your forgiveness. If you're so scared, what are you doing here? After everything you've done for the village, the least I can do is go with you, for old times. Naruto smiled, downing the rest of her drink before getting up. Well, with the 9 tails firmly locked away, I can mildly feel the alcohol, so let's do this before it wears off. Varrick hesitated for a moment before standing and taking Naruto's hand. With a deep breath, they started walking into the evacuation tunnel. Just remember, we can't touch the walls even when we reach out as far as we can together. Naruto's voice held a tremor. We probably could now that we are older. Naruto squeaked. After a moment, she spoke up. At least we don't have Mrs. Haruma with us. That caused Varrick to chuckle. The sound bounced off the walls, calming him. He remembered having to run practice evacuations as a child, and one real evacuation before he left the orphanage. Back then Naruto had been a tiny, underfed child who barely spoke and shook with fear at the slightest noise. Varrick had had countless nightmares of her literally shaking apart. He had had to lead Naruto through the tunnel. He would get her to reach out her arms, showing her that even though they couldn't see the walls in the dark, they were actually far from them. Focusing on Naruto and her fear helped him ignore how terrified he was. He had a job, to look after Naruto, because she couldn't look after herself. When she walked into the bar 10 years later, he hadn't recognized her. She had been so confident, loud, and talkative. She had comfortably joined in playful mockery of her drinking buddies. Although he had long ago stopped protecting Naruto, seeing that she no longer needed him and had replaced him with a better man had hurt. He had instantly disliked Shikamaru. He could see, thanks to the man, that he wasn't good enough for Naruto. Even when he had admitted his feelings to her, a large part of him had hoped she would reject him. It had still hurt when she had, though. With Naruto leading the way to the evacuation chamber, they made it there a lot quicker than they would have with Varrick leading. If he didn't know Naruto, he would have thought she was fine. However, under the light of the chamber, he could see the paleness of her skin and the wideness of her eyes. The open space of the chamber allowed them both to breathe. Naruto organized the children and their families or guardians quickly. Taking a deep breath, they led the group back through the tunnel. Naruto explained how the village may be in ruin, but it was just buildings, and the village was not the buildings but the people. As long as the people survived, so did the village. Her words calmed the children and distracted Varrick and Naruto from the feel of the tunnels closing in on them. The end of the tunnel appeared and Naruto noticeably started walking quicker. Varrick had to tighten his hold on her hand, reminding her silently that she wasn't alone. When they exited the tunnel, Naruto let go of Varrick's hand, leading the group to the Uchiha estate with confidence. She worked easily with her fellow ninjas. She did everything asked of her. It's good to see that you and Naruto are friends again, Dai commented. Not exactly. Varrick shrugged before turning to his boss. You know, a lot of the time it's hard to believe Naruto is the same person I knew at the orphanage. But then there are things that haven't changed. In the orphanage, when someone was going to be thrown in the box, Naruto would often take the blame, even though he was terrified of the box. Still is really. Shit, Dai swore. Erika had the same issue. Why did he come get us then? Varrick sighed. Because someone asked him to. Dai frowned, clearly not understanding. Unfortunately for him, Varrick was not going to explain something he had realized years ago. With a sad smile, he went to help the madam of the orphanage. She was trying to calmly move the children into their temporary home with little luck. Some were scared, some wanted to stay with Naruto, and others were hunting for ghosts. Varrick wished they had covered up the Uchiha symbol before moving the children in, but it was clearly too late for that. Naruto was busy talking to a group of ninjas about moving other civilians into the estate from the tunnel and how to ensure food, clothing, and blankets were spread evenly among everyone. It wasn't hard for Varrick to disappear from Naruto's sight. He had time to see a dark-haired woman throw her arms around Naruto, making the blonde smile and laugh, before he went to talk to the madam of the orphanage. By the time he left the temporary orphanage, Naruto had disappeared to fulfill another task. He swallowed the burning feeling in his throat. Instead, he tried to make himself useful around the estate as more people funneled in. Chapter 52, Daughters. Inoichi's POV. Choza and Shikaku often said they felt sorry for him for having a daughter. How were you meant to be a protective dad to a ninja? Being a regular father to a little girl was hard enough. What they never realized was he had 2 daughters. Both of them were strong, one of them overwhelmingly so. Even though one of them passed as a boy, they were both beautiful, in personality and looks. And unfortunately for Inoichi, both his girls were surrounded by boys. Ino openly flirted with boys she liked. He wished she wouldn't, but he admired her confidence. Luckily, she no longer cared for Sasuke Uchiha. If she did, Inoichi would have to track down the little snot and beat him to a pulp. But that would also upset his other daughter. His other daughter, the one pushed him away to protect him at such a young age. Naruto was almost the complete opposite of Ino in the regards to boys. Naruto was oblivious to boys. She hadn't realized that boys had liked her when she was young. She hadn't realized for some time that the bartender, Varik, liked her. And honestly, Inoichi was fairly certain that she didn't consciously realize that Shikamaru loved her. He wasn't sure if Naruto even understood what romantic love was or how to recognize it. He had been steeling himself for the moment when he would have to see his godson get his heart broken. But then he and Ino had ran down into the crater and seen Shikamaru cased in a ball of chakra. Ino was still young with her abilities, so she couldn't use someone's chakra to get a glimpse into a person's mind like he could. The moment he touched the swirling chakra, he had seen Shikamaru looking at Naruto seriously, telling her she wasn't a demon, Shikamaru laughing with Naruto over dinner, and surprisingly, a moment where Shikamaru kept pinching Naruto's arm and asking if she now hated him for it. Inoichi was sure that that moment would make more sense with context. But those memories weren't for him. They were some of Naruto's memories that made her most desperate to protect Shikamaru. They were some of her memories that summed up her relationship with Shikamaru. Inoichi was thankful that he didn't have to witness anything intimate. The closest thing to that was the last memory where Shikamaru commented about a date they had planned for when Naruto came back. Even if she didn't know what feelings she had for Shikamaru, she did know he was important to her and cared deeply for him. Putting the box of blankets down for some genins to sort, he looked around for one of his girls. He could see Ino cleaning cobwebs from doorways with Sai. Inoichi grumbled, wanting to pull them apart but figuring he has no real reason to. Instead, he spotted Naruto giving some children a gentle push towards the temporary orphanage. With a small smile, Inoichi started to walk towards Naruto. He stopped short when a woman in her late 20s, early 30s, and a man in his 50s came up to Naruto. The woman spoke to Naruto, looking at the blonde eagerly. Her words halted Inoichi's steps. "Mr. Uzumaki, sorry for my bluntness, but I'd like to talk to you about the Children of Iron." Inoichi had heard that title before, spoken mostly in whispers. He had always been curious about the Children of Iron but hadn't known who to ask about them. The few he had heard mention the group in a familiar way had been unwilling to explain or to talk about it with someone not in their organization. He had no idea that Naruto was one or how she came to be one. "You can just call me Naruto," the blonde stammered. "Hi, I'm Masako, I'm a village historian, and this is my father, Gaku. Dad was the first child of iron." Gaku huffed. "I was one of the first." He held out his hand to Naruto, who shook it firmly. "It's a pleasure. You were the one who gave them their name." Masako smiled at her father before turning back to Naruto. "I have wanted to document the Children of Iron since my father first told me about you all. You all are a part of the village, and you have been around for 50 years, and yet your story has never been told. I've done research and I've discovered that you were the last child of iron. I have a request, and obviously you can think it over. I want to write a book on the Children of Iron from the point of view of the group. My father has agreed to write his experience, and so have many others. I was hoping the last chapter of the book would be your story, and if you agree, I was thinking of getting you and Dad to write the introduction." "So you want me to write about what happened with the iron?" Naruto muttered, looking around. Inoichi tried to hide that he was eavesdropping from Naruto's gaze. "Not just that," Gaku explained, "a lot of us suffered outside of that. What made us Children of Iron affected many areas of our lives. My daughter wants the raw, honest story. I'm not very good at writing though." Gakko laughed. You're not the only one. Masako can edit our writing. Fix the grammar and spelling but still keep our voices in it. Naruto thought over his words before sighing. If I agree to it, you can't tell people about it before it's finished. I want the chance to tell my friends about this. I don't want them to find out through your book. We promise that even if you don't agree to add your story, we will still give you warning before it's published, Masako assured. Inoichi bit down on his confusion as the father and daughter walked off. Before he could join Naruto, a Chunin came over to the blonde. The Chunin asked if Naruto was going to retrieve the rest of the civilians. Naruto gave an awkward smile and shrugged before she almost ran from the Chunin. The woman looked at Inoichi when he started following Naruto. He had no answer for the confusion the woman had, but he was determined to find out what was wrong. He had let Naruto dictate their interactions for too long. He had missed getting to see her progress up close. He had been one of the last people to discover how close she and Shikamaru were. He had had to listen to Ino yell at him for never telling her that once upon a time she had had a sister, that she hadn't imagined the blonde girl buried in her memories. Ino had understood that it was Naruto's doing, but he had let her vent anyway. Mainly he let her because everything she said was something he had thought himself. But he knew, deep down, that Naruto had a legitimate and pressing reason for pushing them away. Whenever he had tried to discover the answer, though, he had been met with a stubborn Naruto. The more he tried, the more she pulled away from him. He had had to make a choice between getting to know Naruto in a small capacity, or never getting to be in her life at all. When he found Naruto, she was hidden in a side alley. Her hair was the only indication she was in the shadows. She was crouching down, her back against the wall, and her hands gripping her head. Slowly, Inoichi walked forward, making sure to kick a small rock or two so that Naruto knew he was there. She started wiping roughly at her face, smearing the tears over her cheeks. Inoichi sat down next to her, staring at the opposite wall of the alley. What's wrong? Nothing, I'm fine, Naruto stammered, taking a shuddering breath. Naruto. Inoichi's voice remained steady, though there was a warning tone to it. The woman took a deep breath. They want me to be the one to lead the rest of the civilians out of the evacuation chambers. And you're worried about what they will do. I don't think they will hurt you. No. I'm scared of the tunnels. Naruto ran a hand through her hair. It's fine. If they want me to go, I'll do it. No, you will not. You are visibly shaken, and you clearly haven't gotten your chakra back from your fight. You think I haven't noticed how you keep holding your head, or nearly falling over. You're exhausted. You should be resting, not doing things you are clearly terrified of. But the village needs help. And they have it. Every able ninja is doing what he or she can, and as the civilians move back in they will be the most helpful, since they will be uninjured and have energy. Inoichi looked hard at Naruto. Do you think Shikamaru is being selfish for resting instead of being here? Of course not. Naruto snapped instinctively. He fought hard in the invasion and nearly got himself killed. His chakra nearly killed him. If I hadn't funneled some into him when he was trying to fight pain, he would have died in one of the most painful ways. And you think he did more than you? That he earned his rest when you didn't? Inoichi raised an eyebrow when Naruto looked at him in confusion. Well, yeah? Shikamaru is a better ninja. The village needs him to get better because we all know there is more to come, and we need him for that. I'm the reason Pain was here in the first place, and besides, there's nothing about me that the village needs. Right, because it's not like you are one of the only sages this village has. It doesn't matter that you pretty much took out Pain, one of the strongest Akatsuki members, on your own. You were the one to suggest moving the civilians into the Uchiha estate, but who needs to make sure the civilians have a safe place to stay during the rebuilding? We could just let them sleep among the rubble and the blood. None of that shows your worth at all. Inoichi's words were coated in so much sarcasm that he was surprised none of it dripped from his mouth. I did the same thing that any other ninja would have done. Shikamaru has a keen mind, one that should be valued, Naruto snapped. I'm not saying you're wrong. Shikamaru has proven himself superior to his father, even with his inexperience in comparison. I'm just saying that because he is valued doesn't mean that you can't be. We were struggling to fight the Pains, but you You have a warrior's instincts. Lord Jiraiya had it, and so did your father. Your father was smart, there was no doubt in that, but when he was in battle, he was almost clairvoyant. He knew exactly what he had to do and how he had to do it. You are the same. Watching you fight is almost like watching a dance. Every move looks natural and instinctive. You might be a different type of fighter to Shikamaru, but that doesn't mean you are a lesser ninja. You've already faced your fear once today. No one would expect you to do it again, and no one is going to blame you for getting some rest. Now come on. Naruto looked as though she was going to argue with him. However, he fixed her with a stern stare, making her sigh and get to her feet. And Noichi walked her out of the Uchiha estate and to the Nara estate. Although he wasn't fond of the fact that Shikamaru and Naruto had shared a bed earlier, he still led her to his room, figuring that she needed the comfort his presence would provide. When she had disappeared into the bedroom, the man went in search of the one woman who could keep Naruto in line. Yoshino, can I speak to you for a minute? When the woman nodded, he gave her a brief summary of the discussion he had had with Naruto. I have a bad feeling. Something is wrong with her, but I can't work it out. Can you keep an eye on her? I would ask Shikaku or Shikamaru to watch for behavioral change, but they wouldn't be able to notice the emotional side very well. Of course. Do you have any ideas as to what's wrong? It could be that she feels responsible for the village. She did comment that pain had come here for her, but I feel like it runs deeper than that. And if you could find out what the hell a child of iron is, that would be nice. That question is going to bug me, but I didn't want to ask Naruto in the state she was in. Yoshino frowned. I thought that group was just an urban legend. Apparently not. I overheard a historian asking Naruto about it. The woman's father was the one who named the group. So it's obviously a thing, but Naruto reacted oddly to it. She made it clear she didn't want those close to her finding out about it through the book the woman wanted to write. Should we worry that Naruto is part of a secret organization? Yoshino asked, her eyes darting towards Shikamaru's door. I don't think so. The Children of Iron aren't like the Foundation or anything. It just seems like a title some of them have. Something must tie them all together. But the fact that most people aren't even sure they exist shows they aren't doing anything of note, or even anything at all. But Naruto looked uncomfortable talking about it so openly. The founder was fairly old though, and Naruto is apparently the last, so the group spans a few decades. Although the Foundation tries to remain a secret, many people find out about them. The Children of Iron seem different. Once when Shikaku asked someone who sounded like a member what it was, he just said that if we didn't know, we didn't need to know, and that spreading it around could hurt the younger Children of Iron. Since Naruto is the last one, I guess the historian who talked to her doesn't have that to fear. Well, I'll keep an eye on Naruto and let you know if I spot anything. Hopefully it's nothing. But if I'm right, it could be like when she was younger. She hid how bad the village was getting until she was in the hospital. He sighed, rubbing at his forehead. Should I warn Shikaku and Shikamaru that there might be something wrong? If nothing else, they can keep an eye on her in the village. No. Those two are easily some of the smartest men I've known, but sometimes they can be so busy looking for the answers that they forget to ask the question. I need to know if there is something wrong, not how to fix it. But she's sleeping right now, so that's something. I'm going to go rest myself after checking on my wife. No doubt she's pushing herself to help even though her health can't take it. If she needs any help, just let me know. And if you all don't have anywhere to stay, we will find a place for you here. Thanks. I haven't had a chance to check out the damage personally. I've been too busy organizing supplies for the village, so I'll let you know. With that he left, wishing he could have taken Naruto back to his home, where she could share a room with Ino like when they were babies. Unfortunately, he didn't even know for sure if his house was standing. But at least he knew she was in good hands in the Nara estate. None of the clan members had reacted badly when Naruto's transformation jutsu broke in front of them, and it almost looked like some were used to her being a fixture in the estate. It did make him wonder how he hadn't seen Shikamaru's feeling for Naruto earlier. Choza had commented to him a few years back that Shikaku believed Shikamaru had feelings for a boy, but he hadn't been able to get the man to tell him which boy. Inoichi chuckled, realizing his large friend probably didn't realize Naruto was a girl. He was still unconscious, but once he woke up, the blond man had plans to rub his supreme knowledge in his face. After all, what were teammates for? Chapter 53 Interruptions. There was a weight pressed into his chest. Even with all the aches and pains in his body, it didn't hurt that much. With a tired grunt, he opened his eyes, blinking away the sleep. He almost laughed when he saw Naruto was the weight. She had tangled herself around him like an octopus, one leg wrapped around his hips, her head in the dip of his shoulder, and an arm hugging his chest. Half her torso was draped over his, pressing her chest into his in a distracting manner. He could feel a damp spot on his skin close to Naruto's mouth and chuckled, realizing she was drooling in her sleep. One of Shikamaru's arms was around Naruto's back, after having pushed up her shirt to sit on her skin. He didn't remember doing so, but instead enjoyed the feel of her skin under his calloused palm. His touch made Naruto squirm in her sleep. Her exposed stomach rubbed against Shikamaru's as she practically laid on top of him. It was easy to take a moment and forget that the village was broken, that his leg was in a cast, that his system felt raw and blistered after nearly burning out over chakra excessive use. Instead, he just took the time to enjoy having Naruto pressed tight against him. He finally noticed the pressure in his abdomen that signified an urgent need to use the bathroom. With a sigh, he tried to move Naruto's shoulder, only to find she wouldn't move. Stroking her cheek, he looked down at the blonde. Naruto, I need to get up. The woman frowned. Kakashi-sensei, you can't swim in a lake full of pudding. With that, she rolled away from Shikamaru, sprawling over the other side of the bed. I'm not even going to ask. Free of the blonde suction cup, he grabbed his crutches and made his way to the bathroom. When he was done, he made his way to the lounge room to identify the voices he heard. Shikamaru! His breath was knocked out of him when a small figure barreled into him, wrapping their arms around him. I'm so sorry. I tried to get down there and help you both, I swear. Putting an arm around Hinata, he patted her shaking back. It was lucky that he had wiped Naruto's drool off his shoulder. I know, Hinata. I heard your clansmen held you back, and I'm thankful. She broke his nose, Neji stated, a smirk on his face. For Neji, that one smirk was the equivalent of rolling on the floor laughing. Hinata rounded on her cousin, her face scarlet. I didn't mean to. And I've apologized profusely for it. It's alright, Nara men like feisty woman, Ryota waved off, making Hinata's blush darken and Neji to glare. Stay away from my cousin, Neji growled. Oh, Ryota, still making women feel uncomfortable, I see, Ino laughed. Shikamaru's mother came into the room carrying a plate of cookies. He had no doubt she and Choji's mother were baking food to take to those ninjas still working. The two women liked to keep their hands busy. Yoshino put the plate on the coffee table before looking from Shikamaru to Choji and back. Boys, did you know Naruto is claustrophobic? Shikamaru looked at Choji, who wore the same confused look as he did. Slowly, the two of them, along with Neji, all made the same noise. Oh. That explains a lot. He had no doubt they were all thinking about the Earth Dome they were trapped in years before and how Naruto had exploded, demanding out. He had thought it was because Naruto wanted to fight the enemy, but he could see something was off, that she was panicking, even if no one else could see it. She hid it well. Thinking it over, he actually didn't remember her ever going into small spaces. She even often left her bedroom door open, even when changing. The only time she closed it was when he was with her. Well, make sure she doesn't go into the evacuation tunnels then. Yoshino left the baffled group. I can't believe you of all people didn't know she was claustrophobic, Ino said, looking at Shikamaru. What, her? Shikamaru groaned at Lee's yelp, looking over at a shocked Lee and Tenten. He didn't even know why they were here. Oops. Ino looked guilty. I forgot they didn't know. So, the rumors are true? Lee asked, his eyes wide. Wait. Neji, you don't sound surprised. The Hyuga man blushed deep red, crossing his arms. Well, I've fought Naruto, you see. At Lee's innocently baffled look, Neji huffed. I used gentle palm. Lee, he felt Naruto's chest, Tenten explained, looking disapprovingly at Neji. Neji, how could you? I didn't mean to, Niji snapped. I thought I was fighting a boy. If I had known, I wouldn't have aimed for her chest. Shikamaru, punch him. Ino laughed. He shrugged. I'm good. By the sounds of it, Sasuke found out a similar way. If Niji did it a second time, I'd have to punch him. At least you didn't find out like Sai did. She was naked, Sai stated plainly, walking into the room. I was quite surprised to see that Naruto was a female. Danzo never mentioned it. I was also surprised to see she lacked scars. How long did you stare at her? Ino snapped. Sai cocked his head to the side, clearly thinking over the question. I'm not sure. Long enough for my brain to register the new information and evaluate whether Naruto was hiding a weapon. We didn't get along with each other at the time, so I was wary of any attempts on my life. So were you wiggling her? Ino put her hands on her hips, glaring at Sai. The rest of the group just looked on. Choji, Shikamaru, and even Niji were fighting amused smiles. Hinata and Lee looked concerned for Sai, and Tenten was glaring at Sai. What does wiggling mean? Sai asked, looking plainly at Ino, oblivious to his danger. What Shikamaru does to Naruto, Ino grumbled, waving a hand in Shikamaru's direction. Hey! Oh, I wasn't doing that. I simply tried to work out if Naruto was tricking me or not. Captain Yamato was shocked. I've never heard a man yelp like that. Sai stood there for a moment, waiting for more questions. When he received none, he cleared his throat and held out the papers in his hand. This is for you. I drew up some plans for the rebuilding of your estate. I remember you saying your house was rather cold, so I spoke with Captain Yamato. He helped me to fix that issue with my plans. Once the area is cleared away, he will build the structure, but I thought you should see the plans first. Ino had the dignity to look guilty for going off at Sai only moments before. Thank you, Sai. Do you have a place to stay? My family is staying here. That explains why you're here. Shikamaru sighed, walking over to the couch to sit down. Now, why are the rest of you here? Hinata wished to see Naruto, and Lee and Tenten decided to come with me, Niji answered, as though that should satisfy Shikamaru's curiosity. Niji followed me. He's being protective. You are in charge of our clan whilst your parents are out of the village. Someone must guard you whilst the village is at its weakest point. Hinata rolled her eyes before smiling. Naruto, you're awake! Naruto wandered into the lounge room, rubbing at her eyes as she yawned. She muttered a hey before she dropped down next to Shikamaru, tucking into him easily. With her legs draped over his knees, Shikamaru was able to run his fingers up and down her thigh. I just came to tell you that we got into my home and Kurenai-sensei's present is safe. I have it wrapped like I promised so we can give it to her whenever. She's staying with my family, Choji added. Depending on how long it'll take for everything to get fixed up, she might be staying with us after the baby is born. A crunching noise made Shikamaru look over, seeing Lee munching on the cookies that his mother had put out. When Naruto noticed, she held out her hand, letting Lee put some cookies in her hand. You really are a girl, Lee exclaimed, his eyes sweeping over Naruto's form only to blush. Shikamaru didn't blame him. Naruto was in one of Shikamaru's black sweaters, the shirt just being long enough to cover her underwear. He had never seen her in solid black, but it highlighted the blue of her eyes and drew the eye to her long, tan legs. The way she tucked herself further into Shikamaru and munched the cookies in her hands made the man think that she hadn't realized Lee and his team were in the room before she walked out. It was reasonable that she didn't have her chakra out to sense the people since she had used a lot of chakra only the day before. It's not like you actually care, though? Shikamaru said. Of course not. I just was surprised there is something I didn't know about my friend that is a big thing. It's not that big of a thing. I don't care what you see me as long as we're still friends. Naruto held out a cookie to Shikamaru, who shook his head. I have to take some medication before I eat anything. Shikamaru almost laughed when Ino went and got him a drink and his tablets. Sometimes it was easy for him to forget that she was a healer. I should go help move the citizens into the Uchiha estate. Naruto moved her legs slowly, clearly reluctant. No need, Ino waved Naruto off. Yoshino mentioned to the Naras that you were going to do it, and half the clan volunteered to do it for you. The citizens are all moved into the estate, and my clan is distributing supplies. Oh. Naruto looked surprised, but she moved her legs back over Shikamaru's lap. Holding her close, he stole one of her cookies, happy to find that they were still warm. The group made themselves comfortable as they talked about the different restorations, how well the citizens were taking everything, and the fact that the ninjas had made it their mission to tell the civilians what had happened with Pain and how Naruto had helped them. The blonde blushed at the praise she received. 2 days later, Ino had actually agreed to let him leave the estate. He had had to argue with her since breakfast that exercise would do him good. Even then, she had insisted that he didn't go too far alone. This was fine. Naruto offered to walk with him to the Uchiha estate to check on the children and see how the rebuilding was going so far. Since Shikamaru was banned from helping with the restorations by his mother, father, uncle, 2 cousins, a cousin-in-law, his 2 teammates, and Naruto, he just saw this as a nice walk with the blonde. How did you know so much about the Uchiha estate anyway? He asked as they made their way through the streets. Sasuke and I used to go there a lot. He didn't live there anymore, but he liked to show me around, tell me stories about different people, showed me where his dad taught him the fireball jutsu. He admitted once that he didn't want Sakura knowing about us going there cause he didn't want to tell the stories to anyone else. He said that she has a inappropriate view of orphans. I guess he thought I would like to hear the stories more than others. Naruto shrugged, her hands buried in her pockets. Shikamaru quietly cursed the crutches he had to use. He had tried to use only one but found it too awkward, and he was prone to putting pressure on his broken leg for balance. Unfortunately, that meant when Naruto had reached out for his hand, she had found it clasping the crutch and had put her hands in her pockets instead. She so rarely initiated those contacts that he wished he had been able to respond properly to it. And you're fine with it being full of people? I know you suggested it, but it's alright if it makes you upset, remembering that Sasuke isn't here. Naruto gave him a small smile that made him stumble. She steadied him with a hand, stopping their progress. The fact is that Sasuke is liable to do something to piss off the village before I manage to drag his butt back here. But in this time of need, the civilians, who are scared, are seeking comfort in the Uchiha estate. The estate that was opened up to them by the last remaining Uchiha's best friend. It's what's best for the village, and for Sasuke. You cheeky woman! Shikamaru laughed. You've implanted this idea of safety and comfort in people's head associated with Sasuke. Come here. He pulled the front of her shirt, technically his, so that she stepped towards him. Letting the crutch dig into his armpit, he put one arm around her waist the best he could. Naruto's hands instantly tangled themselves into his hair as he kissed her, making him pull her closer. He felt the hair elastic on Naruto's wrist brush his temple, making him smile. She had been wearing it as a bracelet since she had stolen it from him over a month before. He moved his arm, letting the wooden post under his arm fall to the ground as he held the blonde tighter. She gave a slight squeak of surprise against his mouth. He pushed up the back of her shirt enough to expose the heated flesh of her lower back, running his fingers across the surface. Ahem. With a jump that caused pain to radiate through his leg, Shikamaru looked around. He spotted Iruka-sensei looking awkwardly up at the sky. The sight of their old teacher made Shikamaru and Naruto blush scarlet. Could you not do that in the middle of the street? Iruka-sensei asked, his eyes still trained of the stretch of blue above them. I really did not want to see 2 of my little students doing that. Sorry, Iruka-sensei, both teens said before Naruto picked up Shikamaru's fallen post so that they could walk off as quickly as they could. When they were out of earshot of their teacher, they couldn't help but laugh. The estate was full of movement. There were little children running round wearing hard hats much too big for them, carrying little toy hammers and hammering at anything that stood still long enough to be classed as building material. Some had taken to trying to wrap injured ninjas in newspaper to bandage their wounds. Food stands had been hastily erected in the courtyard to provide lunches for those hard at work, and there were a group of people ranging from Shikamaru's age to the elderly sitting in a group, knitting. They waved to Naruto, and some held up half-finished projects that looked like jumpers. I organized the knitting group to help make clothing and blankets for people, Naruto explained. We've been able to recover some stuff as we've cleared away destroyed buildings, but so far not a lot. Luckily, Pain used his push, not an actual explosion. Everything was literally pushed away from the center, so there's a lot still intact. The problem is actually getting to it and finding their owners. You've been working hard. Shikamaru limped over to a bench, sitting down with a puff. Naruto laughed, sitting down next to him. I won't tell Ino that you're winded. She won't let you out of the house for another week if I did. Shikamaru sniggered. Oh, it wasn't the walk here. He leant towards the woman, currently disguised as a boy, whispering in her ear. I blame your kiss. Biting back a smile, Naruto cleared her throat. Now that his hands were free, Shikamaru was able to grab Naruto's hand when she reached out for it. The blonde didn't even care that they were surrounded by people. Sure, they had comfortably shown affections to each other, such as leaning into each other or flirting, in front of their friends. It was different out in public as they were. Normally, most of their behavior in public could pass as close friends with little boundaries. Once Shikamaru had steadied his breathing after the exertion of walking to the Uchiha estate, Naruto ran off. He didn't have time to think about following her because once he got over his shock, she was jogging back over to him. She sat down in front of him with a writing brush and a bottle of ink. What are you doing? You'll see. Naruto grinned, starting to write on Shikamaru's cast, blocking her words with a hand. He just laughed at her antics. When she finally finished, she sat back. Tada! Messily, scrawled along his encased shin, were the words damaged. Do not kick. He couldn't help but snort at it as Naruto went to put the brush and ink back wherever she had found them. He watched Naruto walk back towards him. However, she was stopped by a woman who instantly made the blonde bristle. Hello, Naruto said with a wide, fake smile. Can I help you? What do you think you're doing here? The woman snapped. You're the reason that the village was attacked. You're the reason people died. You're a monster. You should just do everyone a favor and die. The woman had drawn a small crowd rather quickly. Shikamaru scrambled for his crutches as the woman gave Naruto a sharp push. Naruto stumbled back, not even looking shocked. She didn't fall to the ground though, since a ninja grabbed her shoulders, a glare marring his face. What the hell are you doing? The man righted Naruto as she cringed away from his harsh expression. Except that it wasn't directed at Naruto. The man stepped around Naruto, putting himself directly between Naruto and the woman. Others were glaring at Naruto, clearly in the same mind frame as the hostile citizen. However, the amount of people standing against her grew as people appeared out of every area of the estate, gravitating towards the conflict. Naruto is a ninja of the village, the Jonin snapped. If you have a problem with him, then you have a problem with all of us. The village will survive, thanks to Naruto. Even if Shikamaru had managed to pull himself to his feet, there was no room for him to hobble over to Naruto. She was lost in a sea of ninjas and civilians alike. The group that showed hostility towards the blonde was dwarfed. The smaller group dispersed as quickly as they could, realizing that they had no support. Don't worry about them, Naruto, another Jonin stated, putting a hand on her shoulder only to move it off awkwardly, a red tinge to his cheeks. We won't let them give you a problem, alright? Naruto stared at the man in a daze, nodding as many of the gathered crowd voiced their support. Thank you? She looked at Shikamaru, looking lost. The man seemed to realize Naruto was uncomfortable. Well, you can get back to your friend. Just remember that the village has your back. Her face still covered with shock, Naruto walked over to Shikamaru slowly. She dropped into the seat next to him, grabbing his hand firmly. Are you alright? Shikamaru whispered. I don't know what to do, she whispered back. I'm used to the hostility, not the whatever that was. Putting an arm around her, he kissed her temple. You'll just have to get used to it. After his outing to the Uchiha estate, Shikamaru decided to stay within the Nara estate for his short walks. Eri had taken to accompanying him, since Naruto was always out. She would leave shortly after breakfast, and come home in time for dinner. She spent the few remaining hours before bed with Shikamaru, and any of their friends that had decided to visit that day. They had honestly not gone a day without at least one visitor. Many times Kiba or Ino had dragged Naruto home for a quick lunch, and when Naruto had ran back out to help clear whatever area they were clearing that day, those who had joined them for lunch stayed to take a rest from their long day. Choji and his mother were the most common visitors, trying to escape their home that was still missing a member. Ino took to updating them on any slight, positive change to Cho's state. There was no doubt that he would wake up and recover, but he had suffered some damage, and his chakra needed to replenish before it could work to heal him. Unfortunately, those who were badly injured hadn't been healed when Naruto won over her enemy. Because of the constant bustle around the house, Shikamaru cherished the quiet moments. After a week of constant movement, Naruto finally decided to sit and relax for a day. It did take Uncle Inoichi almost begging her to take a day off to get her to do so, but Shikamaru was thankful nonetheless. Now he was stretched out on the lounge with Naruto sitting between his legs, her back resting against his chest. The Toads had finally gotten around to sending her belongings home, so now she wore her black shorts that Shikamaru was very thankful had survived the destruction of the village, and an orange shirt with black lace straps. Naruto sighed, turning her head to better see Shikamaru. "Read to me." Not taking his eyes off his book, he smirked. "No. But I'm bored." "So? Get your own book." When Naruto put her hand over the page he was staring at, he took a playful nip of her earlobe, making her squeal. She turned in his arms so that she could more easily see him. "You're mean! And you're stopping me from reading." He gave her a teasing smile. "If you wanted attention, you could have just said something." Dropping his book to the ground, Shikamaru ran his hand down Naruto's back, making her move closer. The blonde kissed him as one of his hands slid into her back pocket, the other hand cupping her jawline. Naruto's hand slid under Shikamaru's shirt. At her touch, fire spread through his body, making him tighten his hold. The hand on Naruto's jaw moved down her body to slide into Naruto's other pocket. "This is a public space." Shikamaru decided to ignore Ino, continuing to kiss the woman in his arms. He couldn't help but pull back and laugh when a pillow whacked him in the back of the head. "Do you mind?" Shikamaru asked, rolling his eyes at his teammate. "I don't want to see you two sucking face." "Then go to another room." Shikamaru looked down at Naruto, who was watching the conversation with amusement, not seeming to mind that Shikamaru's hands were still in her back pockets. "This is the lounge room. It's public. And I'm a guest." "Guest implies you're not annoying." "Which you are, if you're wondering." He smirked at Ino. "And Naruto is a guest too. Shouldn't I make sure she's happy here? By shoving your tongue down her throat?" Ino huffed. "It works surprisingly well." Naruto's words made Shikamaru laugh. He kissed her again, ignoring Ino as she groaned and walked out of the room. He pulled Naruto closer as she pushed his shirt up further for better access to his torso. It was hard to remember that only yesterday he was clawing at the walls with restlessness when something as simple as sitting on a couch with Naruto made him never want to move. His only hope was that when the village started to rebuild she would have more time with him. Eventually she did wear him down and convince him to read out loud to her. Running his fingers absently up and down her spine, he read the words in a soft rumble that sent Naruto into a much-needed sleep. Shikamaru knew from Ino, who was sharing a room with Naruto, that she spent most nights writing until exhausted. What she was writing, he didn't know, but he had noticed the tiredness to her eyes and the sinking to her worn-out shoulders. At least she had one day without having to run around or entertain friends. Chapter 54: Clap on the Back. Kakashi's POV. An unusual thing had started to happen. Guy had literally knocked him unconscious when he realized that Kakashi hadn't fully recovered after his literal death experience, though that was not the unusual thing. He had finally gained consciousness, not truly feeling recovered anyway, and had managed to break out of the wooden restraints that were no doubt made by someone else now on his list of people to torment. Well, torment more. But once he was up and about again, and ninjas started being discharged from the hospital with their injuries bandaged, he found people clapping him on the back, or shaking his hand, telling him that he had done a good job. This was the unusual thing. Normally, people avoided his eye, or with one particular chunin he couldn't remember the name of, run from him with an unnecessary scream. He certainly didn't feel like he had done a good job. From everything he had heard about Naruto's battle with the pains, any damage he had inflicted had been shrugged off by the enemy. Considering that he lost his life in that battle, he really hoped that Naruto had punched Pain extra hard. He wasn't sure how he felt about the fact that his killer was the reason he was alive. Instead, he chose to give the credit to Naruto. Still, he definitely didn't deserve admirations. Coming back from border patrol with Guy, Kakashi yet again received a good job and a handshake. In a daze, he turned to his friend, hoping he had an explanation. When he only received a shrug, he sighed. He went to find Shikaku, who was currently in charge of handing out missions and accepting reports. He found him at his makeshift office, which was a tent not too far from the hospital tents. Many would look at Shikaku and think that he was handling his new duties well. Since Lady Tsunade was in a coma and Shizen was weakened from having her soul removed and then returned, Shikaku was the stand-in Hokage. He was the leader of the Jonins and had the most control over Jonin a promotion, so choosing him to step in until one or both women were healthy again was a rather obvious decision. However, Kakashi could see the tiredness and the stress lines marring Shikaku's face. "Have they decided what to do about the Hokage?" Kakashi asked, not bothering with formalities. "We're going to hold a meeting soon. I've been putting it off. If the village heard that some started pushing for a new Hokage, even a temporary one, only days after the battle they would think we expected Lady Hokage to never recover. Danzo has accused me of trying to usurp the position. Unfortunately, the longer I try to put off the meeting, the more he will look correct." Shikaku sighed. "So, be prepared, Kakashi, you might end up as the 6th Hokage until Lady Tsunade is on her feet. If she ever recovers." Kakashi groaned, making Guy laugh and clap him on the back. "My back is going to be bruised by the end of the week. You are going to have to learn to smile more or you'll scare kids. We can't have kids thinking the Hokage is terrifying." "Wouldn't he have to uncover his face for them to see the smile?" asked an amused voice. The voice instantly caused a slight blush to blossom across Kakashi's face, making him curse. Thankful that his cheeks were covered, he and Guy turned to see Aliyah Akimichi smiling at them. She had a scroll in her hand, and dirt was clinging to her glossy hair, making its midnight color a dusty gray. True to her clan, Aliyah showed no care at her appearance. Her smile was just as bright and disarming as ever, something that unnerved Kakashi as much as when he first met Aliyah. Guy laughed again. "That's not going to happen. After all these years, I've never actually seen his face." Aliyah chuckled. "I have. An enemy cut his cheek with a rusty knife and I had to literally pin him to the ground to get the mask off his face for me to clean the cut." Kakashi felt his cheeks pinch with another blush as he scratched the back of his neck awkwardly. He elbowed Guy so that he would hand over the report they had written up during their mission. When Shikaku checked it and gave them a nod, Kakashi left the tent quickly, trying to not run. Guy, unsurprisingly, stayed behind to talk to Aliyah. Making his way to the makeshift restaurant district, Kakashi looked to sate the hunger he felt. There weren't as many choices for food as there normally was, since only a few food stands were able to make shambled stands with small stoves. Stews, soups, noodles, much to Naruto's delight, and other meals that were filling and could be made in large quantities with few ingredients were the only options for meals. Kakashi didn't mind though, since he rarely chose food for its taste but instead its ability to remove his hunger. He was dipping some bread that the waitress had been kind enough to give him, even though bread was running low, into his stew when Inoichi and some of his clansmen walked past. A few of them clapped Kakashi on the back, commenting on what a good job he had done. This resulted in a lump of food falling into Kakashi's lap. As he wiped off the mess, Inoichi took a seat next to Kakashi, waiting for the man to look at him. When he did, Kakashi voiced his question before the blonde man could speak. "Why does everyone keep doing that? I wasn't that useful in the battle." Inoichi frowned for a moment before realization dawned on him. "Oh, I don't know how you'll feel about this, but they're not congratulating you on your fighting. Everyone knows you are Naruto's teacher. They are saying you did a good job training her." Kakashi looked at him in confusion. "But I didn't train her really. She has her parents' talents, and she's dedicated to becoming stronger. At most, I would explain something she didn't understand that was getting in the way of her training. That's not how Naruto explains it. Inoichi smirked. She makes it sound like you've always pointed her in the right direction for training, and invested large amounts of your time to make sure she succeeds. Her Raisin Shuriken is proof of that. The ex-Sunbu member shifted uncomfortably in his seat. With nothing to reply to Inoichi's statement, Kakashi returned to his food, wishing he had more so that he would have more to do with his jaw. It was after he had pushed his bowl away that he remembered that the blonde had clearly had a reason to sit down. It was merely a look that encouraged Inoichi to start talking. Do you know anything about the Children of Iron? When Kakashi shook his head, Inoichi groaned. How is it that no one can know about the group? I've found out they were real, but no one knows anything about them. Well, either that is a large hole in our security, or someone high up knows about them, Kakashi reasoned, getting to his feet. Most likely, investigators or interrogators would be your best bet, so Ibiki is probably the man you want. Excellent, so he should know Naruto's ties to the group. Kakashi's footsteps stopped. He turned back to Inoichi, his once visible eye widening. Naruto is one? With that, the white-haired man decided he was going to help Inoichi track down Ibiki for some answers. They found him, also having lunch, Anko sitting with him, cheekily commenting about something Kakashi wasn't able to hear. When he and Inoichi drew near, the two stopped talking, looking at them expectantly. Is there something you need? Ibiki asked, wiping his mouth on a napkin. We have a question, Inoichi admitted, sitting down across from the man. Do you know anything about the Children of Iron? Kakashi noticed the look that passed between Ibiki and Anko. He sat down next to Inoichi, eyeing the two. You obviously do. So what is the group? Ibiki sighed before giving them both a hard look. Do you know someone who is an Iron Child? Yes, Naruto. Then we're not telling you, Anko replied to Inoichi. If there is a secret society in the village, that could easily be a security issue, Kakashi commented. Ibiki laughed, something that sent a cold shiver down Kakashi's spine. Relax, Hataki. We aren't trying to take over the village. The title Child of Iron is just something to give us strength. The idea that I had iron in my blood helped me overcome my fear and did affect my career choice. Don't worry. Naruto won't end up jaded like me. That kid's iron blood is why he's so stubborn. Or should I be saying she? Inoichi smirked. Nice try. But why won't you just tell me what it is? Naruto is the last one, so no one is going to be harmed by us finding out. Idiot! We're trying to protect you. Naruto should be the one to explain it to you so he can decide how much detail you need. Anko turned to Ibiki, a cheeky smile on her face. I bet I can find out Naruto's gender before you. Ibiki grinned. Our usual wager? Kakashi shook his head at them, giving up on arguing with them. Inoichi stayed, trying to get answers out of them. He knew it was useless though. They had digressed to idiocy. He found a place to sit and read, trying to not look over at the Uchiha estate. He was failing miserably, having only managed to read 3 sentences before he found himself staring at the estate's gates sadly. You know, if you don't want to be reminded of Obito, maybe you should sit in one of the hundreds of places that you can't see the estate. Kakashi looked over, surprised to find Aaliyah sitting next to him. He knew he should have been more surprised, but part of him had noticed the smell of her perfume. She wore a small smile, her gray eyes sad. I miss him too, she reminded him. Have you been in the estate since the citizens moved in? No. I haven't had to. He smirked. You're the one making sure I don't have to, aren't you? Aaliyah shrugged. Thank you? Kakashi sighed, putting his book away. How's Choza and your clan? Choza is doing well. He should be awake within the week. Choji has done well to run the clan in his father's absence. Everyone is proud of him. He wasn't surprised to hear that Choji was doing so well. However, Aaliyah had been avoided a particular subject. Kakashi had thought she would turn to one of her many friends about it, but from what he had heard, and perhaps asked about, she had acted as though nothing happened. How are you handling everything? He couldn't help but snort. I'll tell you if you tell me? When Aaliyah looked at him with owl eyes, Kakashi chuckled dryly. You die, and you think no one noticed? I found your body. I'm not the only one, so I have no reason to complain. Aaliyah shrugged as though she wasn't talking about her own mortality. Kakashi couldn't help but shake his head. Good to see you're not the same little girl who gave a birthday cake to a chunin she didn't really know and who held a kunai to her throat. You're even more soft-hearted. Now I don't feel so bad that my nail had fallen off into the cake batter. When Kakashi looked at her in horror, she started giggling uncontrollably. You know, Minato-sensei made me eat that whole cake for being mean to you. I'm sorry. If I had known you didn't like sweets, I would have made something you liked. He couldn't help but roll his eyes. Well, if you don't take care of yourself, I will tell your clan that you died. Aaliyah sighed dramatically. Fine. She sobered up and looked at him seriously. Maybe you should tell that to Naruto. I saw him the other day and I think he should take things easy. Just keep an eye on him. She stood up, turning to face Kakashi. By the way, maybe you should see your own second chance at life as a way to move past your issues. We've all made mistakes, Kakashi. You need to start seeing the great things you've done, instead of just the bad. The village thinks you've done a fantastic job training Naruto. I know you don't think you've done anything, but that's because you don't want to see any good in yourself. Kakashi let her walk off, his face pink. When she was out of sight, he shook his head. She needs to stop doing that. He knew to not dismiss Aaliyah's worry, but when he finally found Naruto the next day, he stopped in his tracks. She was smiling as she went about helping various people. But it didn't reach her eyes. Her eyes had taken on a familiar, dull look, one Kakashi had prayed he would never see in the gaze of someone he cared about ever again. When he finally made his feet move, he went up to Naruto, taking the planks of wood out of her hands and dumping them on the ground. When Naruto looked up at him in confusion, Kakashi did what he had wished he had done for his father. He hugged her tightly. What's wrong? Kakashi whispered. You're acting weird, Naruto replied in a panicked voice. Kakashi gave a wet chuckle. Holding her tighter for a moment, he moved her out to arm's length. He evaluated her, determining that whatever was wrong was internal. Don't push yourself, he ordered before pulling her away from the builders so that he could more easily question her. Have you eaten today? Yeah, Yoshino found Shikamaru, and me, and we had lunch together. Good. And have you been sleeping well? When Naruto gave a hesitant nod, Kakashi frowned. Ino snores. Naruto gave a small smile at her sensei's chuckle. I'm glad she doesn't like Sasuke anymore. If those two ended up together and had a child, we'd have to have an earthquake warning every night. She started looking around, worried. Don't tell Ino I said that. I swear I'll try to get sleep after writing something, but she's so loud. I end up having to go sleep in Shikamaru's room. Kakashi choked on his own saliva, only to realize Naruto meant it in an innocent way, he hoped. Excuse me? Naruto and Kakashi looked over to see a dozen ninjas with the Sand Village symbol on their forehead protectors. They were all looked at Naruto. It was the man standing in front of the group that spoke again. We wanted to take this opportunity to thank you for returning our Kazekage to us. Since Naruto was blinking at them in surprise, Kakashi decided he would have to hold the conversation. Something he was not thrilled about. Did Lord Gaara send you all here to help? Not exactly. The man didn't notice Kakashi tense. When we heard what the leaf had suffered, we all volunteered to help. Many more did, but the village couldn't spare us all, so Lord Kazekage selected those of us with the most building experience. The man turned his gaze back to Naruto. Thank you for everything you have done for Lord Kazekage and the Sand Village. The Sand Ninjas all bowed before leaving to be given duties. Naruto smiled. It's nice of them to help. Naruto went to walk off only for Kakashi to stop her. You're not going anywhere. You just missed what happened. No, I didn't. Sand Ninjas have come to help us, and thanks for the leaf helping them. He sighed deeply. That is not what happened. Naruto, they came here because you helped their village. Do you know why we are so desperate to get the village functioning again? Naruto rolled her eyes. Yeah. We want to be strong enough to fight off any attacks from the Akatsuki. That is not right. Kakashi shook his head, fighting the urge to bury his face in his hands. I think you and Asuma's team have done a good job of ensuring the Akatsuki won't attack us head-on anymore. We are guarding ourselves against the other villages. Not too long ago the Sand would have seen our weakness as an opportunity to attack us. Now, so many ninjas volunteered to help us that the Kazekage couldn't send them all. We've had peace between us and various villages before. Your father helped us gain peace with the stone, because they knew they weren't strong enough to take us when we had a ninja like him. It was an alliance that wouldn't last because the moment your father died, there was no threat left. But with you, if you were to die, the peace would stay. The Sand doesn't fear you, they respect you. When we went after Gaara, we were doing it because we knew that if he died, the next Kazekage might not want an alliance with us. You, though, you didn't think of that for a moment. You wanted to save Gaara, the man, not the Kazekage, because it was what is right. I don't think I've ever seen a ninja do that. It was always for an ulterior motive. His gaze boring to Naruto's. What you did with Pain wasn't the first time that you have shown another way to dealing with conflict. That's why I always tell people to never count you out. Naruto sniffled. You make it sound like I did it all alone. Well, the Sand ninjas weren't bowing to me. It looked as though he had given Naruto more information than her brain could comprehend. He stood and watched as she tried to process it all. As they stood there, Shikamaru walked up behind Naruto, putting his hands on her hips. She muttered a hello. If we're all meant to be worried about the other villages attacking us, why did we let the Sand ninjas into the village? He was actually impressed that that had been her issue. Thinking over how best to explain it, he noticed Shikamaru's hands slip under Naruto's shirt to sit on her stomach. Kakashi was uncomfortable with such behavior, but he did take a moment to think that he should change his bet with Yamato, Kurenai, Kotetsu, and Izumo. Apparently Genma and Anko wanted in on that bet too. With the way Shikamaru was behaving, they would be together within the week, if they weren't already. Well, there are only a dozen of them. We have enough ninjas to deal with them. Not to mention they would have heard what you did. Your name will do what your fathers once did. All the villages will hesitate before coming after us whilst you're here. But the main reason is that we are allied with them. If we don't let them in, it means that we don't trust the strength of the alliance, and are therefore liable to break it ourselves. It would create tension where there currently isn't any. Kakashi frowned when Shikamaru's hands slid further up Naruto's stomach, making the woman look uncomfortable. I trust the Sand. Gaara wouldn't betray us. You're too trusting, Shikamaru stated, making Naruto look at him in shock. She shook it off, turning back to Kakashi. How are you feeling after you know? I could be worse. A lot of people are still recovering their chakra, myself included. And by the way you were surprised when I found you, I can tell your sensory chakra is down. When Naruto nodded, Kakashi rolled his eyes, trying to not glare at Shikamaru, who obviously didn't notice how tense the blonde was at his behavior. You should be taking more breaks. We need you at top shape, in case something threatens the village. You might be able to sway people to your side, but with Lady Tsunade injured, we need to do our best to get back into fighting shape, to protect her and the village. But the village needs to rebuild too. We have a heap of people building. It's probably best to leave it to those who know how to build. We wouldn't want the houses to fall down. Shikamaru laughed. As Naruto looked at Kakashi in confusion, Shikamaru's hands shot up under Naruto's shirt. Naruto gave a yell of surprise, pushing the man's hands away. She turned on him, her face red and etched in shock. Shikamaru! What the hell? The Nara man started laughing hysterically before he transformed, his height shortening, his sleek, black hair turning into messy dark blue, his face rounding out. Within seconds Anko stood in front of them, still laughing. Anko! Naruto punched her in the arm. You are a girl. And you are a lot more comfortable with Shikamaru than I thought. You didn't start reacting until I put my hands up your shirt. Genma said I wouldn't be able to touch your waist without you getting suspicious. Anko took a deep breath, a grin still on her face. I win. What? Anko and Ibiki had a bet for who could find out your gender first, Kakashi explained. And you decided to feel me up? That's why Ibiki has been staring at my chest? Naruto screeched. Why doesn't anyone just look for an Adam's apple? Enko opened and closed her mouth several times before cackling. That would have been a lot easier. But not as fun. You should see your face. Enko. Yeah? She grinned at Naruto. Run! The dark-haired woman turned and ran, laughing as Naruto chased her around stacks of wooden planks and builders. He had taken to trying to get his students to spend a bit of their day with him, so that he might keep an eye on them. It had quickly revealed itself as a bad idea. The first day Sakura brought up the rumors that Naruto was a female. She spent 15 minutes laughing over the stupidity of the rumor, and listing all the reasons Naruto clearly couldn't be a boy. Since the whole "you obviously have a penis" wasn't on the list, Kakashi thought Sakura should have been more open-minded. Although Naruto was still binding her chest, she didn't wear her jacket as often. Many days Kakashi found her wearing shirts that looked like they belonged to one of the males her age. He had spotted her stealing his shirts a number of times, so he wasn't surprised to see her in clothing that used to belong to her friends. However, the shirts didn't hide the feminine curves to her body as well as her usual jacket did. But he had realized long ago that Sakura often saw what she wanted to see. Although she was strong, and had talent in medical jutsus, she was still under the impression that she had as much combat strength as Naruto. Sometimes it seemed like she thought she had more than Naruto because she was better at controlling her chakra. Kakashi hadn't bothered pointing out to her that Naruto had surpassed her Sannin sensei whilst Sakura had not. She was probably on par with Lady Tsunade, but too often she was affected by tunnel vision, especially when it came to Sasuke. It was during one of their meetings, one Sai and Yamato hadn't been able to attend, that Kiba found them and told them how Lady Tsunade had been stripped of her title. Kakashi knew that Shikaku wouldn't have allowed that to happen if he had a choice. To make matters worse, Danzo was Hokage, and the first thing he had done was denounce Sasuke as an enemy of the village. The moment he heard the news, he was filled with dread. The man was devious. By naming Sasuke as an enemy, it meant that Danzo could kill him and study his Sharingan, and he could anger Naruto enough to have reason to lock her in the village. If Danzo had had his way from the start, he would have locked Naruto in a dark hole and left her there until he found a way to harvest the Nine Tails' power for his own. The only way to stop Naruto from doing exactly what Danzo wanted was to tell her the truth. He knew she was able to think wisely when needed. Seeing her restrain herself looked painful, though. He wished there was something he could have done to ease Naruto's suffering. Danzo doesn't have full power. He needs the Jonin's vote of confidence. The village loves you and trusts you. They don't feel the same way about him. People realize that the Foundation didn't enter the battle against Pain. There is no proof, and only Lady Tsunade can hold Danzo accountable, but it has created hate through the village. Danzo can't act against you without cause, even if he gets the vote of confidence. So, for now, don't be alone. Stay with someone from the Nara main line, Yamato, myself, Inoichi, or Sai at all times. Danzo trusts Sai to spy on you, but he will support you. And keep any thoughts you have about Danzo to yourself. You can't give him any reason at all. Kakashi sighed, not knowing he could keep his next words. We will find another way to save Sasuke. If Sai works for Danzo, maybe he can give us more information on what the guy is up to, Naruto reasoned before focusing. After a moment, her eyes came back into focus. Come on, Sakura, I know where Sai will be. The two ran off, making Kakashi's shoulders sink. When he received a paper bird from Sai requesting him to go to a tent in the medical sector, Kakashi felt the gripping fear he had only felt a handful of times in his life. The last time had been when he found Naruto lying beside the riverbank she and Sasuke had fought at. He had prayed she was only unconscious, but when he drew near he found her without a heartbeat. He had taken to stopping his journey back to the village after every few meters to pump Naruto's heart to keep her blood flowing. He had no idea if it helped to give Naruto a chance to start breathing again, or if he was just acting out of desperation. When he got to the tent, Sai was leaving. The younger man had no injuries that he could see, but there was a frown to the otherwise emotionless-looking man that unsettled Kakashi. Hey, what's with that glum look? Sai took a breath that shook his entire form. Leading Kakashi away from the tent, He explained how Naruto had tried to talk to ninjas from the cloud who wanted to kill Sasuke. Kakashi could almost feel aging lines etching their way onto his face at the news that Sasuke had joined the Akatsuki. Naruto, attempting to convince the cloud to go after their Jinchuriki instead of Sasuke, and had let the cloud woman release her anger on Naruto's face. When the cloud ninjas left, Naruto had asked Sai to take her to Kakashi and Yamato. He couldn't help but wonder what was going through her head. Kakashi-sensei, Sai said, clearly mulling over something that confused or disappointed him. This link between Naruto, Sakura, and Sasuke hurts them. Is that bond really that important? Why do they keep trying when it causes them so much pain? Sai, you're watching Naruto for Danzo, right? Kakashi asked. He hoped that Sai's answer would tell him whether or not he could trust this man as much as he hoped he could. In many respects he reminded Kakashi of Yamato when he was young, though less abrasive at times. However, he was fairly certain he knew the answer, but wanted to be sure before making Sai aware of where his loyalties clearly laid. The man looked shocked, guilty, but also offended. This last emotion told Kakashi everything he needed to know. Well, that's... Relax. It's alright, Kakashi assured. Jumping in to help Naruto isn't something a lookout does. I think you've started to realize it too, Sai. Sai looked as though he expected a scolding, but when Kakashi finished speaking in a gentle tone, the pale man looked surprised and out of his element. As though choosing to deal with something else instead of the comparison to how emotions were dealt with by Danzo and by Kakashi, Sai took to tracking down a first aid kit and getting them back to Naruto. The woman looked better than expected, but somehow she actually looked worse than with her fight with pain. It wasn't hard for Kakashi to realize the Cloud Ninja had aimed most her hits to Naruto's face, whereas pain had hit Naruto more in the body. Sai went about cleaning Naruto's wounds and bandaging them. Kakashi almost wanted to laugh at the gentleness Sai took to looking after Naruto. It was obvious that Sai admired Naruto for her emotional expressiveness and for how she cared for those around her. It was almost uncomfortable to think about how Sai would be if he had joined a different team instead of Naruto's. Kakashi found out that Yamato had been informed by Naruto what had happened and had spent the short time Kakashi was talking to Sai yelling at the girl for letting someone hurt her. It was almost like he took it as a personal insult that someone had injured Naruto. You really should have Sakura treat these wounds, Sai advised. Nah, it's fine, Naruto assured, her voice raspy. Plus, if she sees me like this it will only cause more trouble, trust me. Although Naruto had chuckled at the end of her sentence, Kakashi couldn't help but get the stomach-dropping thought that the blonde was referring to Sakura's tendency to hit her. He knew that Naruto was able to shake off the hits rather quickly, but it had been something he had tried to talk Sakura out of doing a few times. Each time she seemed to misunderstand what he meant and commented that Naruto shouldn't be such a knucklehead or perverted. Kakashi took some insult to her claims, though didn't voice them, because Naruto's somewhat idiotic tendencies made Kakashi smile and think fondly of Kushina, and out of everyone on the team, Naruto was the least perverted with the exception of Sai, who probably didn't comprehend what perversions were. Sakura was probably one of the worst on the team for it, maybe after Kakashi himself on the scale. Though he maintained he liked Lord Jiraiya's books because of the interesting storyline, and no amount of teasing from Yamato was going to make him say otherwise. Besides, I heal fast, Naruto went on, assuring Sai. I'll be okay in no time. Sai, what you did before. Thanks for helping me. Sure. Sai's voice had a rare level of emotion in it before he went back to bandaging Naruto's arm. Boy, they really worked you over. Naruto was down to just her chest binds and pants. Her shoulder and arm had needed bandaging as well as half her face. Kakashi had given the girl a playful glare when she commented that she now looked like Kakashi with one eye completely hidden. Naruto chuckled at him before she bit back a scream of pain at Sai as he tended to her wounds. Sorry, the man yelped. Look, Kakashi started, his voice taking on a rougher tone as he fought the urge to find the Cloud Ninja and throttle her. If the village saw Naruto now, they would probably attack the Cloud on principle. You need to take it easy for a little bit. No! Naruto snapped, her eyes still having that dull look that terrified Kakashi. Look, I'm going to see the wreckage. Kakashi stood unmoved as Sai and Yamato showed their utter shock at Naruto's statement. Admittedly, he had more experience with Naruto turning one thing into something seemingly unrelated, so he had been waiting for her to state the reason she had asked to see him and Yamato. He had been expecting something none of them could think of and had schooled his expression accordingly. Naruto, what are you saying? Yamato asked. The 5 Kage summit starts soon. Every hidden village has agreed to travel restrictions and no unnecessary missions. That was going to do little to change Naruto's mind. Instead, Kakashi had other questions. What do you hope to achieve? I'm going to convince him to forgive Sasuke, no matter what. But you don't have the Hokage's necklace that seals the 9 tails. As the Jinchuriki, you must not leave the hidden leaf. It's bad enough that you sprouted 8 tails during the last battle. We're lucky the sealing formula triggered to stop the 9 tails, but what about next time? Besides, I'm in charge of reconstructing the village. I can't stay close to you all the time. He knew Yamato was concerned for Naruto, and that everything he said came from his desire to protect the woman, but the dull look in Naruto's eyes made Kakashi want to silence him. Honestly, there wasn't anything Naruto could ask for in that moment that Kakashi would refuse if it meant removing that look from her eyes. I met the 4th Hokage, Naruto admitted, something that surprised Kakashi. He hadn't expected her to want to tell her team. When she had told the people at Shikamaru's house, she had been rather chakra drained and prone to word vomit. The one who stopped me from becoming the 9 tails was the 4th Hokage. Yamato turned on Kakashi, wanting answers. He honestly wasn't sure how it was done, but he explained it the best he could to his friend. And that's when the 4th Hokage told me the 9 tails incident 16 years ago was caused by the Akatsuki guy with the mask. He's so strong that even the 4th Hokage struggled against him. He said the masked one's pulling the strings. He was probably just using pain the whole time. If Sasuke has joined the Akatsuki, that means this masked guy is using Sasuke too. It's just as Lord Jiraiya feared. I can't believe that man is behind the incident 16 years ago. He bears the Sharingan and a grudge against the village. The only rogue Uchiha capable of summoning the 9 tails is Madara. He hoped the dread and fear pooling in his stomach, screaming Madara's name, was wrong, but if it was, that meant there was another, unknown, enemy out there. He was somewhat surprised that Yamato agreed with him even though Madara had not been seen for decades. When he asked Naruto what her father had actually said and found out the man had told her he believed in her, Kakashi decided there was only one thing to do. Naruto, you go to the Raikage. Yamato and I will tag along as your escorts. He took great pleasure at the look of disbelief and the shouted what that Yamato gave. Kakashi still hadn't forgiven him for binding him at Guy's request. No, this is a bad idea. What? Don't you even want to hear what I have to say before you make up your mind, Tenzo? Kakashi teased. Hey, you're not supposed to call me by that name. Remember? Now calm down. Kakashi smiled under his mask as Yamato turned red with anger and Naruto laughed. When they had finally confronted the Raikage, Kakashi had wanted to let Naruto take the lead. She was rather persuasive when she needed to be, and her Jinchuriki status, something the Raikage's brother shared with her, might have been able to convince the Raikage more than he or Yamato could. However, the Cloud Ninjas had first addressed Kakashi himself, believing him to be in charge. When they found out it was Naruto, though, they took it with equal seriousness, showing just how far she had came in the eyes of the ninja world. Naruto had spoken with heart and wisdom, wanting to reach a peaceful end to the conflict that would start at Sasuke's death. Unfortunately, the Raikage walked past Naruto without even acknowledging her words. Even when Naruto tried to stop him, dropping prostrate into the snow, the Raikage showed no care for the blonde and her desperate plea. Kakashi felt sick at the sight. I'm begging you, Naruto yelled. I don't want us taking each other down for vengeance anymore. When the Raikage simply turned away and continued on his path, Kakashi swallowed the anger clawing at his throat so that he could focus. Naruto's words conveyed more wisdom than most ninjas ever had, and yet they fell on deaf ears. Sasuke has always been about vengeance. He's obsessed with it. It changed him. Vengeance drives you mad. It turns you into someone you don't even recognize. I don't want anyone else to become like Sasuke. I don't want the Leaf and Cloud to kill each other. And that's why, Naruto's words were cut short by the tears streaming down her face, pooling and freezing in the snow. Her arms no longer had the strength to hold her, dropping her into the cold snow. No matter what, growled the Raikage, we will dispose of Sasuke. You all ought to hold your ground afterwards. That's right, a Cloud Ninja agreed, no sympathy on her face. You're a fool. The way the Cloud dismissed Naruto made the anger start to boil in Kakashi's stomach. He was thankful when Yamato spoke up because Kakashi couldn't guarantee what would come out of his mouth if he spoke. Raikage, please, the incident in which you tried to obtain the Hyuga Byakugan is still unresolved on our side. The hidden leaf swallowed our tears of bloodshed to avoid war. A war whose seeds you of the Cloud had sown. Because of those noble sacrifices your people still exist. Do not forget that. Kakashi moved closer to Naruto, trying to shield her with his presence. Right here and now this young shinobi, no matter how awkward it is, bowing her head in affection for the Cloud and Leaf, village and nation. So, Lord Raikage, as one of the 5 Kage, tell me, what do you think of this? The Raikage turned to look at Naruto for the first time since dismissing her. Kakashi had hoped that mentioning Naruto's gender would make the man more respectful. The Cloud was one of the villages that acknowledged the strength of women most and often had the opinion that women were smarter than men, who were physically stronger. Therefore, Naruto's true gender would have just a little more effect on the man than the one she appeared as. Unfortunately, the Raikage, ever being angered at the attack on his brother or not seeing any wisdom in Naruto's actions, frowned at the blonde. Shinobi shouldn't lower their heads so easily. Action and power are the things that a shinobi should respect. Concessions are forbidden in agreements between shinobi. The history of mankind is the history of war. Since the 3 great ninja wars, every nation has tried to obtain powerful ninjas. Those who are weak are trampled. That is the truth of the shinobi world. We will brand the Akatsuki as wanted criminals. Once we do, not only I but the whole world will hunt Sasuke down. You bow your head for a criminal and beg mercy to keep your comrades safe. In the shinobi world, that is not friendship. You hidden leaf brat, think more deeply on what it is you want to do. A shinobi world is not so indulgent as to suffer fools. Kakashi had expected Naruto to retort with an angry tone, but instead she stayed silent, letting the Cloud walk past her still bowed form. He knew Naruto had matured from the little yapping puppy she used to be, but he feared something else was keeping her quiet. As the Cloud ninjas left, Kakashi crouched beside her, putting a hand on her shoulder gently. Naruto, enough. Raise your head. Naruto punched the snow, tears bitterly falling from her eyes. Some days Kakashi wanted to curse the 3rd Hokage for assigning him Naruto. He had made it clear that he was doing so for 2 reasons. One was because Kakashi was strong enough to fight her if she started to lose control of the 9 Tails, and the second reason was to get her to banish the darkness in his heart that Minato-sensei had tried to remove. Kakashi hadn't wanted to get close to her. The mere sight of her had reminded him of who he had lost, and why he never wanted to put himself in that position again. He had tried to focus on the duty of stopping the 9 Tails, even if it meant killing Naruto, but in only a short time she had wormed her way in, convincing him to have picnics with the team and even having the team stalk him to try to see what was under his mask. It was one day when Naruto's old teacher, Iruka, asked about her that he realized she had completed her father's mission, with the help of her teammates. He had told Iruka how much Naruto had advanced only to find himself smiling and feeling a sense of pride and fondness for the cross-dressing girl in question. These emotions unfortunately came with the downside that when he had asked the 3rd why Naruto hid her gender, he had felt unequivocal rage that had made it impossible for him to communicate in anything but a series of growls for hours. The only one who would come near him was Aaliyah, who made it her priority to return human speech to him. She had then had to suffer him yelling at her about the village for 2 hours, punctuated with colorful profanity that would usually have turned her red with a mixture of embarrassment and disgust. Now he found himself simply lost for words. He felt like the little 6-year-old who would put himself to bed early instead of trying to fumble over something that was out of his emotional range of understanding. He was thankful when Yamato walked over, putting his hand on Naruto's other shoulder. Come on, Naruto, let's find a place out of the cold, and we will try to think of something else. Sniffling, the blonde sat up, letting them lead her to the closest town. They found a small inn at the edge of town and asked for a room to stay in. Kakashi didn't want them to head back to the village in the state Naruto was in. She had needed time away from everyone before this incident anyway. The blonde wasn't in much of a talkative mood and ended up lying down in the middle of the bedroom staring at the ceiling. She pulled her bandages off without getting them to check if she healed and didn't give any response when they asked if she needed anything like food. With a silent look at each other, Yamato and Kakashi went into the living room, both trying to silently think of a way to help the girl. He was filled with a wish that they had brought Shikaku or Shikamaru along. The Naras might have been bordering incompetent when it came to emotions, but they would have been able to suggest ways to remove the burden from Naruto's shoulders when it came to Sasuke's fate. The world was giving Kakashi the desire to hide Naruto away from everyone and weigh her down with blankets. The masked Akatsuki that Kakashi thought was Madara showed up and attacked Naruto. At the sound of talking in the other room, Yamato had jumped to action before Kakashi had pulled himself out of his depressing musings. Whilst Yamato separated Naruto from the masked man, Kakashi went in for an attack. If Kakashi hadn't been so busy worrying for Naruto and about the man who confirmed himself to be Madara, he would have been impressed with the intimidating and calm air that Yamato projected. When Madara showed that he was only there because he was curious as to how Naruto had turned a powerful member of the Akatsuki against him, Kakashi almost sighed. Naruto wasn't in the right state for a battle, especially against someone so powerful. What Madara told them about Itachi made Kakashi sick though. The information certainly made sense, especially given the person Kakashi had known years before. But Sasuke's mental state only caused Naruto more distress. Kakashi had a horrifying feeling that Madara had noticed Naruto's emotional fragility, and had come to make it worse. This was confirmed when Madara had left freely once he had told Naruto about Sasuke. They had barely had time to digest the information, and deal with the inn owner when Sakura, Sai, Lee, and Kiba had appeared. Kakashi had been relieved, though suspicious to see them, hoping they could help pull Naruto out of the deep sadness she was sliding further into. When Sakura had started talking, however, Kakashi's stomach had filled with bile. He knew Sakura was lying about her feelings for Naruto, and he knew she was oblivious to Naruto's sexual preference if she thought declaring her love for the blonde would allow her to manipulate Naruto. It was clear by the looks on the others' faces that whatever had brought them there had not been what Sakura was saying. Naruto had reacted with confusion and terror, clearing worried about how to break her friend's heart as gently as possible. Like Kakashi and clearly Yamato, Naruto probably assumed that Sakura had been aware about Naruto only being attracted to boys. When Sakura had brought up Sasuke before playfully chastising Naruto for asking her to repeat her confession, Naruto's look of shock quickly morphed into a glare. She had obviously picked up on what Kakashi had. That every word out of Sakura's mouth was an utter lie. Kakashi took some pleasure in the fact that Naruto didn't just out Sakura and instead handed her a shovel to dig herself deeper whilst also testing to see if it truly was aroused. But why, huh? Why tell me? If this is supposed to be some kind of joke or something, it's not funny at all, Sakura. What happened? It's nothing really, Sakura tried to assure in her fake breathy voice. I just realized my true feelings. I mean, I can't continue to love a rogue shinobi or a criminal, can I? I'm not a child anymore. It's time for me to face up to reality. That's why, Naruto, you can forget about that promise you made to me. You can stop, alright? You can stop chasing after Sasuke. Yamato tried to stop Sakura, but Kakashi stopped him. There had been a very clear imbalance of friendship between the two women of Team 7 since the start, and if it was to ever be righted, Naruto had to see that Sakura would always put the blonde's well-being last. And if Yamato spoke up, it might cause Sakura say something that would hurt Naruto more. On top of that, the glares that Kiba, Sai, and Lee were giving Sakura made it clear how much they felt she was not only betraying them and their mission, whatever it may be, but mostly Naruto. Kiba's hands were shaking as he curled and uncurled them into fists. Lee looked at Sakura like she was a complex puzzle that he had to solve to get rid of his frustration and anger. Sai, however, looked at Sakura with such a deep loathing, as though he took her abuse of Naruto's feeling on a personal level. Naruto may be oblivious to such things as Shikamaru's depths of emotions for her, but there was no chance she was missing the solidarity of her friends in regards to their hate of Sakura's actions. Even when Naruto pointed out that this was a rapid change in behavior, Sakura continued to declare that she had simply only just realized that she had given up on Sasuke and that Naruto had won her heart, releasing Naruto from her promise. The big problem with that load of drivel was that Naruto wasn't determined to return Sasuke to the village for Sakura's sake, but for Sasuke's. The other problem was that anyone with eyes could see that there was a relationship forming between Shikamaru and Naruto, and the blonde had no interest at all in winning Sakura's affections. Kakashi had never felt the desire to grab one of his students and shake sense into them, but at that moment he had to ball his hands to stop himself from acting on that thought. If she tried to kiss Naruto, even with the furious glare etched on the blonde's face, Kakashi hoped that Naruto would respond with a strong punch. At that moment Kakashi would receive eminent satisfaction at it, something he might feel guilty about later, but most certainly not at that instance. Unfortunately for Kakashi, and fortunately for Sakura's health, she went in for a hug instead. Naruto stood rigidly in her arms. Surprisingly, Sakura managed to say something Kakashi believed to be more idiotic than the rest of her speech combined. She tried to tell Naruto that the reason she loved the blonde was because Sasuke kept running away whilst Naruto had been the dependable punching bag. When Sakura mentioned that Naruto had been a loser, Kakashi tried to not snort in disgust. Naruto finally snapped, pushing Sakura away and yelling at her that the joke was over. The pink-haired girl tried to brush off Naruto's fury with a giggle. A growl punctuated through Naruto's words. Just stop. I hate people who lie to themselves. So just stop it. A look of terror crossed Sakura's face before it morphed into annoyance. So that's it? You think I'm lying to myself? Kakashi wanted to yell that no, she was lying to Naruto, but he kept his mouth shut as Naruto nodded. He wished he hadn't when Sakura hit Naruto's hand off her shoulder in anger. I'm the one who decides how I feel, not you. If you hate me, just come out and say so. Don't make some lame excuse. But it doesn't make sense, Naruto pointed out. You left the village and came all the way out here just to tell me that? Just to tell you, Sakura repeated in offense. Just. Is that what you said? You think it's easy for a girl to profess her love like I just did? Yes, I came all the way out here. Of course I'd come as far as this. It's always Sasuke this and Sasuke that, chasing after him and putting yourself in danger. You're the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki and the Akatsuki is after you. So you worry about your own skin for a change. Don't you get it? I'm trying to tell you that you don't have to chase after Sasuke and endanger yourself. I came out here to find you because I want you to return to the village right away. That's all. I think she forgot that she was pretending to love Naruto, and is now just getting offended Naruto isn't falling at her feet. Kakashi could tell that something Sakura had said had hurt Naruto, but he couldn't tell if it was Sakura refusing to admit her feelings were a lie or something only Naruto noticed because it hit a personal chord. I'm sorry, but it still sounds like an excuse you made up. I know you, Sakura, maybe better than you think. And I know what it is to struggle with feelings, something you haven't shown any signs of. Sakura still tried to argue that with her feelings for Sasuke gone, Naruto's promise didn't stand. However, she failed to understand what Naruto meant when she said that didn't matter. She tried to explain it, but the others obviously didn't comprehend her. Naruto almost spilt what Madara had said, but Kakashi was able to stop her. She went silent at Kakashi's warning but then stared hard at Sakura. It doesn't matter if there isn't a promise between us anymore because rescuing Sasuke is just something I have to do. Anger covered Sakura's face before Kiba came over and whispered in her ear. Kakashi, who had rather sharp hearing, was able to pick up a word here and there that made him believe the man wanted to tell Naruto the truth, but Sakura violently trod on his foot before storming off. She acted as though Naruto had given her the biggest insult imaginable, making Kakashi wonder what the hell they had been planning. The three males had followed her, clearly not knowing how to salvage the situation. Akamaru looked back at Naruto with a sad look, as though the dog knew something the humans didn't about the blonde. Naruto remained stoic as the group walked off. When they were out of sight, she turned, her hollow-looking eyes glazing over Kakashi and Yamato as she slowly trudged towards the inn's entrance. They had just reached the door when they noticed Sai making his way back to them. He quickly noticed that it was one of Sai's ink clones. Kakashi tried to think of a way to pull Sai away from Naruto and find out what the man wanted to say in case it caused Naruto more heartache. Unfortunately, Sai only wished to speak with the woman. He told them the real reason they had traveled to Naruto and why Sakura lied. When he conveyed the plan Naruto's friends had come up with to kill Sasuke themselves, Kakashi felt pity for Shikamaru. The plan had the fingerprints of the young Nara all over it, something that Naruto would easily pick up on. Sai commented that the others had wanted to tell Naruto in person, but Sakura had requested the job to do so. Kakashi silently cursed that Shikamaru hadn't been the one to tell Naruto. It might have been damaging to whatever relationship they were forming, but at least he would have broken the news to Naruto gently and explained himself so Naruto didn't feel betrayed. What's more is that Sakura's plan of convincing Naruto she loved the blonde instead of Sasuke was absolutely idiotic. If Naruto had been in love with Sakura and believed her, Sakura's plan would have ended with either Naruto getting her heart ripped out or being in a one-sided relationship that Sakura would hate and take out on the blonde. As it was, Sakura was lucky that not only did Naruto not love her but hadn't believed her. Though in saying that, Kakashi was certain Sakura's protests that she was saying her true feelings had hurt Naruto anyway. Kakashi was surprised to see Naruto stress that Sakura couldn't have agreed to that when she loved Sasuke. There was desperation in her voice, not wanting to believe her fellow teammate had thought the plan was a good one. The problem was that it was a great plan. If a Leaf Shinobi killed Sasuke, there would be no need for vengeance, and the situation wouldn't escalate into a war between the Leaf and whichever village killed Sasuke. He could see what Sakura had tried to do. She had known that the truth would cause Naruto pain, but her plan had been just as bad, if not worse, because of the long-term ramifications it could have easily had. When Sai admitted he had only told Sakura that Naruto cared for her and felt guilt over not keeping the promise she had made, Kakashi began to wonder where Sakura even got the idea that Naruto was in love with her. Perhaps she had misunderstood what Sai had meant, or some pride had come into play in regards to it. Yamato pointed out that if Sakura had known Naruto's reaction all along, then that meant she had never planned to tell the truth and instead tried to manipulate Naruto's heart for no good reason. Sakura knew Naruto would never give up on the promise, and yet had tried to use feelings that didn't actually exist to get the same result as telling the truth. The only upside, one that no one voiced and Sakura hadn't know about, was that it left Shikamaru blameless for the plan and Sasuke's subsequent death if Naruto remained oblivious to it all. At the realization that Sakura was planning to kill Sasuke herself, Naruto seemed to implode. Yamato was in a state of shock, and Kakashi could only picture having to bury the pink-haired girl as the village cried in outrage at what Sasuke had done to one of their own. She was no match for Sasuke, or for Naruto. Those two were leagues above her in combat, and Kakashi had to squelch his anger at her arrogance for thinking she could hold her own and achieve victory against one of them. When Naruto visibly flinched in pain and grabbed her head, Kakashi struggled between going to her and staying put out of fear of making it worse. He wasn't given an opportunity to decide what to do thanks to the arrival of Gaara and his siblings. At the sight of them, Kakashi wanted to cover Naruto's ears and draw her into his embrace. There was no way this was going to end well for the emotionally unstable woman. Her shoulders had sagged so heavily that Kakashi worried she would collapse at any moment. Swallowing the lump in his throat, and shaking off the image of white hair and sunken eyes, Kakashi listened to what the Sand siblings had to say. They told of Danzo's betrayal, Sasuke's attack on the Kage summit, and the shaky alliance the other Kage had reached. They were willing to add the Leaf into the alliance if Danzo was ousted, which meant that Kakashi would be named Hokage. The burden to Naruto wasn't too heavy from the siblings until Gaara started talking to her directly. He promised to protect her and the Eight Tails Jinchuriki, but made it clear that also meant from Sasuke. He had meant well, like almost every other person, to hurt her that day, but he validated the thoughts of her friends by claiming Sasuke a lost cause and that to save herself Naruto should give up on him and let him die. The only show of defiance Naruto gave was pushing off Gaara's hand that rested on her shoulder. Temari appeared to notice Naruto's fragile state and ushered her brothers away as smoothly as she could, shooting Naruto a worried look as they left. Gaara stopped and tried to give Naruto some last comfort by telling her that she had to decide what a true friend would do for Sasuke. Yamato instantly tried to speak with Naruto when the Sand siblings had left, but Kakashi stopped him. The last thing Naruto needed was another person talking at her or telling her how to feel, and what to do. Kakashi waited, holding his breath, to see how Naruto was going to react. Yamato and Sai went into action, trying to plan out their next move whilst Naruto stood motionless in front of them. Kakashi only half listened to them, his eyes trained on the blonde. He ordered Yamato to take Naruto back to the leaf, and told them he would deal with Sakura. Naruto started breathing heavily, as though she couldn't get enough oxygen, drawing the three males' attention to her. She grabbed her heart, hunched over. "Naruto, what's the matter?" Kakashi yelped. When Naruto dropped to the ground, Kakashi, for an instant, saw Naruto curled over a blade, buried to the hilt, her hands slick with blood. The image was so powerful that the smell of blood clogged his nose, and he stepped back in panic before all three men rushed to her side. They tried to get her to slow her breathing with no luck. She had gone into a state of shock before losing consciousness. "Naruto!" Yamato yelled before he and Sai looked at Kakashi in desperation. "What do we do?" "Get her inside, and warm," Kakashi snapped. "Stay with her whilst I deal with Sakura. If she wakes up whilst I'm gone, get her to eat and drink something hot. Hopefully I won't be long and will be able to alleviate some of her heartache." Yamato nodded, scooping Naruto up and hurrying into the inn. Cursing silently and trying to shake off the image of Naruto bloody and broken, Kakashi got Sai to lead him to Sakura's location. When the clone disappeared suddenly towards the end of their journey, he couldn't help but feel a sense of fury at his pink-haired student who had clearly done something to the real Sai. Considering he had wanted to leave Naruto out of the fight with Sasuke, Kakashi couldn't help but feel glad she had appeared. She stopped him from having to kill one of his students, and had given Sasuke a deal that gave them time. The boy would stop trying to destroy the village and generally being a pain in the Kage's backsides, and Naruto would track him down after dealing with Madara and give him the battle to the death he clearly wanted. It was implied that if Naruto lost, it would be symbolic of killing the village, and if Naruto won, she would drag Sasuke's half-dead form back to the village and probably do something ridiculous like chain him with chakra-repressing cuffs and dangle him from one of the Hokage noses until he saw the error of his ways. She had obviously found the third option she had been searching for, even if everyone in the village would be furious if they ever found out. The entire trip back to the village was made in relative silence. Naruto was still fighting off the effects of Sakura's poison blade and was also not in a chatty mood. Lee, Kiba, Sai, and even Akamaru were silently glaring at Sakura. Kakashi had a feeling Sai had passed on Naruto's panic attack to the other men. And Kakashi had too many thoughts flying through his mind to voice any. The only one who said more than the minimum necessity was Yamato, who was alternating between going off at Naruto for ditching him and making him worry, and fussing over the blonde and making sure she wasn't going to collapse again. He had ended up insisting that Naruto walk back to the village with a blanket wrapped around her, and made them stop frequently so the blonde didn't exert herself. Admittedly, Kakashi had taken to pointedly not talking to Sakura. He felt that if Sakura hadn't done what she did, then Naruto wouldn't have had such a severe reaction to the information dumped upon her in rapid succession. As it was, the pink-haired girl didn't seem to find anything wrong with what she did, and instead occasionally complained at having to stop so frequently since she was cold, and wanted to get back to the village. Kakashi couldn't help but notice that Yamato didn't offer Sakura a blanket as well, and had the suspicion that the Sakura was soured in the image of the younger team leader. It couldn't be helped when Yamato had seen Naruto's pain firsthand and was obviously fond of the blonde. The only good things that had came out of the horrendous day was Danzo no longer being Hokage, and no longer being alive, which Kakashi saw as a plus, and they had gained a hostage that had been traveling with Sasuke and might have information on the Akatsuki.